Finally, we have the genogram. Here you can see how I've used those characters, face shape things in the animations. Now, I've created this in PowerPoint. I'll do a video in the future to show you how to use PowerPoint to create genograms. Personally, I think it's the best way without specialist software to create genograms. Please note that best is used here in a relative sense. It's still not that great, but it's better than any other way I know. The Genogram module on Liquid Logic is awful, unless there's a version of it that I haven't got to use. I know that it's an added extra that most places don't pay for, but then those places also end up not paying for any other Genogram software and just assume social workers will somehow magic up a decent Genogram. So PowerPoint it is, or hand drawing something. When we talk about assessments and other documents painting the picture of a family, you can think of the Genogram as that picture. Now, genograms, in my view, are criminally underused within children's social work. I think that's because people, A, don't have an easy way to create them, as I've just described. PowerPoint is the best I've found, which is available in pretty much every social work department. And B, it's usually thought of as a one and done document. You do the genogram and it's on file, and then you don't have to think about it anymore. So this brings me to the first thing that I want to tell you about a genogram. It is a living document. As you get to know the family, you will find out different things about the wider family members, the family structure and the family dynamics. As you find these out, you update the genogram. You can also print it out and use it as a tool with the family. You can use it to help them explore and reflect on their relationships. They can fill in people for you, and it helps with exploring the family history as well. So let's say you use PowerPoint for it. You update it every week or so, and every so often you take a screen grab or a PDF of the genogram and put it on the file. And that keeps a record of your changing understanding of the family and of the family's changing dynamics. But let's look at what Susie has created here at the start of her work with the family. It's very basic, but it's a start. You have Mike and Lucy, who are married, so there's a solid line between them. They have 2 children, Johnny and Tara. They all live together. We know that Lucy has a sister and her mum is around, but little beyond the sister's name. We also know that Mike has a brother, but nothing about him. We have some information about each of the family members, and we can include that here as well. Finally, the family dynamics. You'll see that there's a key in the top left of the screen. The colours show the health of the relationship, and solid/dotted lines show how confident we are that we're correct. At this point, we only have basic information, but that's okay. We can say that Mike has been abusive towards Lucy, both physically, this red arrow, and emotionally, which is this yellow one. And we don't know exactly what Mike's behaviour is towards the children, but we have good reason to suspect that concern at least is warranted, as shown by these dotted grey arrows. More positively, we believe that Lucy is supportive of the children and that Sharon is supportive of Lucy, so these green arrows. Where the lines start with a dot and end with an arrow, this shows where the source of the dynamic is, so abuse, support, whatever, and where it's targeted. This genogram should be updated regularly, probably weekly throughout the assessment period and monthly thereafter. In real life, you should try to update your genograms at least every 3 months. If it's not necessary to make any changes from the last review 3 months earlier, you should at least note that you have reviewed it and made a conscious decision to not change anything, rather than just let it sit there with the date that's getting rapidly further and further behind. Oh, and you'll see that the date towards the top of the screen shows when this was last updated or checked. I'll do more on genograms later as this gets updated throughout Susie's work with the family. One last thing I'll say, there's different types of genograms. Some can be very complicated, using different coloured quadrants and so forth, and squiggly lines and all of that to indicate various things. Now, these can be helpful to give yourself a clear understanding of a case, but I find them hard to read if I wasn't the one who created them. Also, I'm not convinced that most families understand them easily. And as you know, my underlying philosophy is that all of our recordings should be clear to the family above all else. So I personally prefer the more basic but easily understood genograms. That said, sometimes when cases get very complex, you need a genogram which reflects that complexity. And remember, genograms are a tool. Use the best tool in the best way that is most appropriate for your requirements. If the simple one suffices, use that simple one. If that's not up for the job though, then break out the big one and use that. So that's it for this week's recordings. Thank you for sticking with me. I hope you found it helpful, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.